Sayyid Mushahid Hussain, Chairman Defense Committee of the Senate for Relations.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of the Almighty, the Lord of all mankind. Ladies and gentlemen, representing the best and the brightest, the creme de la creme of the Pakistan-American community from all over the United States of America, a very warm welcome to you in Washington. Dr. Shazra Ali, my distinguished and very professionally competent colleague, and I are very honored and very grateful to the Pakistan Ambassador for inviting us specially to join you on this occasion. For me, it's a homecoming of sorts in Washington, D.C., because I studied in this great city, knowledgeable city, diverse city, and a city of learning as a student in Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. And as a student, I was here, and during those days, I managed to travel on the Greyhound bus with a special Greyhound pass, which was $99, I think, those days, all over America, going to San Diego, going to Louisiana, going to North Dakota, going to Seattle, Washington, all parts except Alaska. So I have some understanding of how I spent some of the best years of my youth in this great country, which is a diverse country and which is a welcoming country. I'm very pleased to have in this audience two distinguished gentlemen who are outstanding scholars and representatives of Pakistan. Dr. Akbar S. Ahmed, a dear friend, who is a professor at the American University, and I would like to claim some credit that we launched him as a journalist and a columnist when I was editor of the Muslim, and he was a young civil servant, but a creative civil servant from the FATA to Balochistan, and his articles were published in the Muslim. I would also like to recognize a very distinguished Pakistani, Dr. Ishrat Hussain. Dr. Ishrat Hussain, I learned of him when I was Information Minister. I was reading the Dawn newspaper and I saw an article in the op-ed page written by Dr. Ishrat Hussain. So I said, this is a very good piece. It's a learned piece. It's a good op-ed. He has given some good ideas. And the government should learn from those ideas. So I picked up the phone, asked the operator to get me through to Dr. Ishrat Hussain, whom I had never met or known before. He was in Washington, D.C., the World Bank, and I said, sir, I'm very impressed and inspired by your words. You are a man of ideas, a man of action, and we want to learn from you, sir. He said, I'm pleasantly surprised, because in Pakistan, nobody reads an article and then calls on something has changed. I said, Pakistan is changing, inshallah, for the better, slowly but surely. And he said, I'm coming next month to Pakistan. I said, please come. And we arranged a special event for him with the Pakistan television. And I knew that he had a spark, and as Americans say, he has the zing in him still, with ideas and action and taking it forward. So it's very good to have him here also. I'd also like to recognize two relatives of mine, my brother, Mr. Mawad Hussain Shah, and also Murtaza Hussain, my nephew, who is in the World Bank, who is head of the... And of course, Dr. Akbar Khaja is an old colleague, and he and I were teaching in the Punjab University in the days of General Ziaul Haq, and when we got thrown out together, he chose to leave Pakistan, join the World Bank. I stayed back, so I think. But I'm glad our destinies were intertwined somewhere in Pakistan when we met in the Parliament of Pakistan as elected reps. As my distinguished colleague, Dr. Shazra Mansab Ali Khan Kharal has rightly pointed out, it was a difficult mission for us. But I have had this faith in American society, in the American system, that in Washington at least, if you have a narrative, a story to tell, they will give you a hearing. There is that fairness in the American system that yes, you have a perspective. They may not agree with that, but they will give you a hearing. And I said, it's important that we come out with a narrative which is there. And then, if you do your homework and teamwork, which fortunately Dr. Shadra and I did very meticulously before and during and the current visit, we feel that there has been, as she said rightly, a certain resonance of our presence in one of the world's most important capitals. I remember when I was Information Minister, the Prime Minister of Pakistan had sent me as an advance party in 1998. We were going to see President Clinton. And he said, you go ahead, because you know Washington very well, you prepare the ground for me before I come. And I came here. So, think tanks and other events, because this event, which we had in the last few days, a top think tank leader in Washington told me, Senator, since the last 5 years, this has been the most systematic, the most extensive Pakistani diplomatic, PR and media offensive in Washington across the board, almost like a blitzkrieg. Academia, media, administration, opinion leaders. And he said, now we better understand, we are more sensitized to Pakistan's position. And I would like to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we interacted not just with the American media. We had 16 different interactions. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and your very competent staff. Where is Zobia? The media person. She's done a great job also. I want to recognize them. Media, academia, and it was open. And we came out very clearly, because one thing I know about the American people and the American system is, be upfront, do plain talking, no oohs and ahs, no wringing of hands, no playing games. State the facts as they are, with logic, with wisdom, with reasoning, with honesty. And then, if you have a good case, yes, it will have a result. I remember, as I was mentioning, 1998 when I came, I said that we'd like to reach out. He said there's a very negative sentiment about Pakistan. They are upset over the nuclear tests. And they're not giving us a hearing. In 1998, I said, let's try. We went to think tanks. I went to the Washington Post. And I checked with the ambassador. I said, has any op-ed appeared in the Washington Post which gives our perspective? He said, no, because no, they are not interested. Luckily, the editor of the Washington Post was my friend, Steve Cole, because he was bureau chief of South Asia. And he used to come and see me when I was editor of the Muslim. So I knew him from before. So I went and talked to the editorial board. So I said, look here, Steve, I've been scanning your newspaper. I saw an op-ed 3 days ago written by K. Subramanian, the Indian writer, giving the Indian perspective. You have to balance your op-ed with the Pakistani perspective. He said, we haven't got any, and nobody has approached us to give a Pakistani perspective. I said, you'll get one. I was accompanied by Dr. Tanveer Ahmed Khan, former Foreign Secretary, former Information Secretary, former High Commissioner and Ambassador also, because he's a good friend, man of ideas, former professor. And Tanveer Sahib was very good in writing, very fast. I said, Tanveer Sahib, please produce, or I told him, because I was the former editor, please churn out a good op-ed piece in the next 24 hours ASAP. He did it, and the day after that incident, the Pakistani point of view was carried without spending a single cent. So that's important. The reason I am explaining this incident is that in America, we do not have to have a defeatist mentality. Oh, that we have lost the battle, the Indians have taken over, and they won't listen to us. They will listen to us for the reasons cited by Dr. Shazra Mansabari. Pakistan matters. Pakistan, the region matters. The issues matter. And I'm reminded, she talked of the vision of the Qaid, amazing vision, and she talked of the role of the Madre-Millat, Mohtarama Fatima Jinnah, the mother of the nation. I'm reminded of the Qaid-e-Azam's vision, which I saw in his interview with Life magazine in 1948. The first interview he gave after the creation of Pakistan to the American media, Margaret Bourke-White, a journalist from the Life magazine, came and interviewed the Qaid. And she asked the Qaid, Mr. Jinnah, what do you have to offer? Your country is bankrupt. You have a war with India. Nobody's looking at you. How will you survive? He said, look here, young lady. And with his piercing voice, eyes and his stately voice, he said, Pakistan is the pivot of the world. And she describes that he wagged his index finger with his beautiful hands, the artistic hands. And he said, as it is placed on the frontier on which the future politics of the world will revolve. That was the vision of the Qaid. Today, ladies and gentlemen, in 2016, that vision is coming true. Our message here was very clear. And I would like to say that what we did was out of the box because we also engaged the Indian media. We have no problem. We'll go to the lines again. The Hindu, the Times of India, the Hindustan Times, the Press Trust of India. Yesterday there was an Indian journalist interviewing. He said, I want to interview you. I said, most welcome. You can ask the questions. And today, there's a front page story in the top Indian newspaper, Times of India. Please Google it. And what is the story? The story says, Pakistan envoys in Washington tell India, shut up on Balochistan or face consequences in your own country. This is the message. I'm not saying that. This is how they are saying it. See the Times of India, and if you don't have it, give me your cell phone, I'll send it, I'll ask Shazra to send it on WhatsApp, Because we didn't pull any punches. We told the Americans, you have 3 core interests. We started by reminding Dr. to them that 2 of the biggest, and Akbar, you being a historian and anthropologist, you would know, 2 of the biggest American embassies in the world today are, where are they located? One in Kabul, one in Islamabad. It's not just a construction project, it's not just a factory. It means there's going to be a long-standing, strategic American interest, involvement and presence in our region. Kabul and Islamabad. Then we said 3 areas which are very core for you. Number 1, your relations with the Muslim world. The West and the Muslim world, the United States and the Muslim world, they are fractured. It's the most important relationship in American foreign policy today. That's where the problems arise and that's where the opportunities are there. Pakistan is the most pivotal, the freest Muslim democracy, a dynamic country, as Ambassador and Dr. Shadra have explained. It's the happening place. We have a role to play. The second, the issue of terrorism, counter-terrorism. The longest, the largest, the most successful inland war against terrorism is being waged in Pakistan by the Pakistan Armed Forces with the support of the Parliament, the government and the people of Pakistan with the maximum sacrifice. And we told the Americans we have done better than what you did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Let me be very clear. Third, core interest, the region we are located in. 1/5 of humanity resides in the South Asian region. And I said, I gave them a new concept. I said it's no longer South Asia. That it is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan and the Maldives. Now we are talking of Greater South Asia as a geo-economic concept which includes China, Iran, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. This is woven together by pipelines, by ports, by roads, by rail links. And the centerpiece of this Greater South Asia which is emerging is CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. A project which is the single largest project between any two bilateral countries in the history of international relations. $46 billion spread over 15 years from 2015 to 2030. Above any person, above any party, above any province, above any government, above any institution. It is about Pakistan's strategic interests. And it has four components. As chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on CPEC, which the ambassador said, it has four components. Energy, and inshallah the energy crisis will be resolved by 2018 with the addition of 10,400 megawatts of electricity. Second, infrastructure, roads, rail links. And the rail agreement is going to be historic. From Karachi to Peshawar, upgradation and dualization of the rail track, which has not been done since the British days. And we're going to extend it, inshallah, to Torkham also. Take it to Afghanistan later. The third component, Gawada Port. The Gawada Port, where an international airport is being built, where a new expressway is being built, and Dr. Akbar Ahmed and Dr. Ishq would know the significance of Gawada because they are students of history. In May 2009, in the Atlantic Monthly magazine, which is published from Washington, Robert Kaplan, who has written books linking geography with geopolitics, he had said after a visit to Gwadar, May 2009, Gwadar is the hub of an emerging Silk Road, which will link up with Samarkand, with Dushanbe, with Astana, with Ashkabad, with Bukhara, with Tashkent. And it has the potential, as he called it, and I quote, the Rotterdam of the Arabian Sea. And the fourth one is special industrial zones and parks. The world's second biggest economy, China, has reposed confidence in the future of Pakistan. It's the biggest vote of confidence in Pakistan and its people that they have the potential to rise to the occasion and to take this forward. Ladies and gentlemen, finally I'd like to also tell you that we gave a message also to our Indian friends. India is our neighbor. We cannot wish neighbors away. And the Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, when he was asked about relations between India and Pakistan, he said, I would like the India-Pakistan relationship to be similar, and the model for that, he said, would be the relationship between Canada and the United States of America. Two neighbors working closely together on the basis of equality and strict reciprocity. I think that time has come to realize that vision. And we told our Indian friends, as I said, Dr. Shazra and I spoke to the Indian media extensively, interaction. We said India has two core interests, because it's important. It's not that they like our faces, it's about interests, the relationships. We said one core interest of India is that India wants to rise, develop, join the big leagues. The second core of interest of India, that's the international interest, is economic development. And we said, both these core interests, the biggest impediment is the failure to resolve Kashmir and the failure to have a good relationship with Pakistan. Without that, we will neither rise nor develop.